Hi, it's Jacob, and this is an NYP clip. Click up here to see the full podcast. Enjoy the video.
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit last week, but it was a quick bite, so we didn't really go into detail on it. So the NFL Rooney Rule came up in 2003. So what the Rooney Rule is basically that when a NFL franchise is looking to hire a head coach or an executive, they have to meet a interview quota with ethnic minorities. So whether that's African American, Asian, Arab, like they have to reach an interview quota before they can make a hire, but they do not have to hire um, the minority coach. Um, that being said, over the when that rule was put in place in 2003, you saw like around 14-ish new head coaches that were not white come into the league. However, many of them were fired after a few years. I did not go into each coach to see, like, it's very well possible that the coaches that happened to be hired, their teams did not perform well, and they were fired for cause. But in 2003, you had, I think, 3 minority coaches, and in 2020, I believe that number is now the same as what it was. So, so obviously, it's over 17 years. You kind of had an upswing of it, and now you have, and now you have and they kind of had a downswing of it over the past few years. Um, and the reason for that is because more and more people are looking to hire successful offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators, and those are still very heavily driven by Caucasians. So now the problem doesn't really lie with head coaching issues. The problem is now the qualifications to become an NFL head coach have kind of changed throughout the league, and so now you'd be a successful coordinator first, but now that's driven by whites as well. So what they've done is that this is a proposed action and it is not officially in place yet. The proposed action is to possibly boost draft picks of teams that do happen to hire minority coaches.
I thought that they changed that because last time when we talked about it, there's a change since then. So I thought that they were not doing the draft thing anymore. I could be wrong and dumb. I am most of the time. But I thought they changed it from they weren't doing the draft thing at all, and they were like requiring it.
Yeah, so basically um it all comes down to, so the controversy started because the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs is African American, and anybody who follows the NFL knows just how great that Kansas City offense is. They won the Super Bowl. Um, um,
Overrated.
however, he uh, he really did not receive serious consideration at all for a head coaching job, and many jobs were given to um, other coordinators that do not have the type of pedigree that he does. So this was
Was he
so
actively looking for one? Like,
yes,
did he not want to be
yes,
offensive coordinator anymore?
he he was he was definitely looking for a head coaching job. But so basically, when that happened, many people basically um, criticized the league for basically the rule becoming a little bit ineffective. And that people were and we're wondering if people were just be given serious consideration for the job, simply just to fulfill that requirement, not because they actually were really looking to hire them. So the proposal, um, so the proposal was to upgrade the draft picks of teams who hired minority coaches and kept them in that position for over a year.
So the first year they wouldn't get a boost, but the second year they get like a 3 boost.
But the second year they would.
So they can't pull a little switcheroo and put a white boy in there.
Yeah. So what I think is, I don't think that's a terrible proposal. I do think that, I mean, a lot of times coaches are given at least 2 years before they're really given the boot. So in my opinion, I would say if you keep them in the position for over 2 years, basically showing that you are committed to them being the coach of your franchise. But I do wonder, and it hasn't come up much, but what happens to the franchises that have had minority coaches for quite some time now? Because just off the top of my head, Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, he's been there for a long time, won Super Bowl. So do they get the benefits of this, or do they not? Because he was there when the rule was different. Or Anthony Lynn in LA for the Chargers. He's been there for a few years. They've gone to the playoffs. He's generally been pretty successful. So what about him? I just think the proposal overall, it's not bad. It could be better.
All that I can say about this, Lo, is I know within the league, if a coordinator wants to move up a position, oftentimes, maybe sometimes the head coach can deny it. I know that the 49ers head coach denied Mike LaFleur a interview for the Packers to be an offensive coordinator, even though he was a quarterback coach or something like that. Like the 49ers coach has said, nah, he's staying. So I know that higher-ups can kind of say, no, they're going to stay, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can tell you in the case of the Kansas City offensive coordinator, his name is Eric. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's like Bieniemy or something like that. Yeah, something like that. It's a lot of vowels in a short period of time. So
vowels are scary. It's okay.
Yeah, and he was given that, like, Andy Reid did not block his access to interviewing for jobs. So I don't know how many interviews he had, but certainly like, you'd think that he would have ended up in a job somewhere, just given how good that offense has been while he's been there, and that he won a Super Bowl with that offense. So you'd think he'd end up getting a shot somewhere, but that obviously didn't happen. Yeah. So that's why this proposal has kind of come up. So I don't know. What do you think the proposal should be, Colton? Because I mean, it has been proven that this rule is kind of becoming ineffective. I showed you in terms of head coach, we have just as many as we did when this rule was enacted. Yeah. So
I guess I mean, personally, I don't think the NFL is discriminatory at all. Like, look at the NFL's rosters. Like, they're not discriminatory whatsoever when it comes to that. I mean, front offices, I can see them being maybe a little bit under proportional. I mean, just look at Jerry Jones, for example. I mean, he's all of the Cowboys front office, but I don't like the proposal of giving someone a better position to do better in years solely because he has a different color than white. It just seems kind of, I guess, in a way, unintentional racism in a way. But it just doesn't seem right to me, I guess. What I would try is, I don't know how they would fix it. That's tough, but not that way.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, because like when you hear proposals like this, the thing that immediately comes to your mind is, well, what if this causes like the entire league to completely flip over on the coaching side of it to try to get better draft picks. So that's why, like, I think if you're gonna do something like that, it needs to be for longer than a year. So like whether it's 2 or 3 or even 4. So like you basically need to show that you are with this coach because you believe they can help you win first, not because you're there to get a better draft pick. And I think but the problem is with that is now that kind of like, our franchise is willing to wait 3 or 4 years to get a better third round draft pick.
Now, what they could probably do or find a way, a loophole, is to hire the minority coach as a head coach and then hire a consultant to just do the job for it. I mean, that was something that I just thought of, like, that I could find a way to do. And
but at the same time, if you sit here thinking of every possible way that this could possibly go wrong, it does take away from the good it could possibly do.
That's true.
I think the intentions are good. It's done in the wrong fashion. I think what would be a better solution is to set up some sort of committee that keeps an eye out for when discrimination occurs. And then when discrimination occurs, there's some sort of punishment for that. Because at the end of the day, you need to hire the person that's best for the job.
In a perfect world, race really wouldn't even be a factor. It would be, do you have the qualifications for the job or not? But again, we don't live in a perfect world. I think that there is good that can come from the rule, but there's also potentially the potential for it to go horribly, horribly wrong. So I think that it almost is like kind of something you need to like kind of have enacted and then kind of see how it plays out over a 5 to 10 year period. And then you almost need to go back and then take a look at, was this the right thing to do, and then move on from there, which, because it's kind of hard saying that this is going to happen when we really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I feel like the NFL as a whole was kind of backed into the corner with this because they've gotten a lot of bad press on race in the last 4 or 5 years with Colin Kaepernick and all that jazz. And there was a lot of discussion about who are the owners of these teams. And there's always been this kind of debate over the Washington Redskins name. So I think at the end of the day, the NFL was just kind of scrambling, trying to find something that would be good press in that department.
Something that they could have done is to get a developmental league to test out new rules, maybe, like an XFL type of deal, maybe, to test out new rules, like the Rooney Rule, for example, something like that.
I don't know if the Rooney Rule would be able to be tested.
I guess.
All right. Well, that's pretty much what we got for that. That's pretty much what we got for that issue.